Hello there, I'm Dr. Randall Gates, board certified chiropractic neurologist, as well as being a chiropractor. Most of you watching this know me. My colleague, Dr. Rutherford, is out today, but I'll be manning the ship here today on our Power Health Keys to Success number 30. And the request today, like it or not, was about cravings. I know we've talked a lot about this relative to food addiction lately, but we had a request about what to do with cravings, which I think is a good question because some of you may be addicted to food, like we talked about in previous broadcasts, and we talked about the use of things like dopamine, supplementation, maybe to help you out if you just don't have the willpower to prevent yourself from reaching for the loaf of sourdough bread. But if you're just having some simple cravings, some good solutions we feel include keeping fruit on hand. Typically people are craving sweets. They're craving baked goods like cookies and donuts and cakes. And if you can keep fruit on hand like strawberries, grapes, oranges, if you reach for those, that can be a good, simple solution for handling your cravings. A lot of you are craving chocolate. You may just have to get somewhat creative using cacao powder and coconut flour. There are a lot of recipes online. I know we put a lot of recipes up regarding how to bake with some of these goods such as coconut flour. And many of you watching this broadcast have introduced certain foods. So maybe you can have garbanzo bean flour at this point, or possibly you can have almond flour and coconut flour, but you can't have garbanzo bean flour. So figuring out how you can bake things ahead of time rather than getting into that pickle where you haven't ate for 8 hours and you're starving, and then that's when you reach for something that you shouldn't, because at that point your blood sugar is low and your willpower is low as well. That is exactly what we want to prevent. And eating throughout the day every 2 to 3 hours is another very successful strategy for mitigating cravings. So that's what we recommend on this front. And you know, we're going to continue to beat our head against the wall with this problem until we figure it out. And so we talked about food addiction. We'll just keep broaching these issues because frankly, these are the issues that keep coming up with all of our patients, both in the office and a lot of our maintenance patients. Everybody just, for some reason, gets feeling really good and they deviate from the diet. And the more we can do to give you in terms of tools to prevent that from happening, then all the better. That's really the purpose of these broadcasts. And once all of you are completely sound in your programs, then we'll stop talking about food cravings and food addiction and things like that. But for the time being, the simple solution is, I would say, keep fruit on hand. Now, if you have diabetes, go back to the notes in which I talked to you about specific recommendations relative to fruit, or if you have another blood sugar disorder. But for most of you, having fruit on hand, as well as maybe having some baked goods with coconut flour or almond flour, will help you in the time of cravings. And then also just think what those foods are doing to you, which is kind of where our frustration builds when we are, for all intents and purposes, your autoimmune disorder or your neurological disorder is so vastly improved, and then you're eating a food that for all intents and purposes is a poison for you. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's self-sabotaging behavior, and it's not good for you. And we're looking out for you to keep yourselves better. So that's the whole idea. So use those 3 simple tips when you're having food cravings.